Go ahead, Mike.
Hi, everyone. This is Mike Miller. Sorry about the delay. This is Mike Miller, the Business Development Manager for Attain Technology, along with the owner of Attain Technology, Bob Paradise. We are going to discuss a major event that happened over the weekend, a cybersecurity event that caused a lot of damage. But rest assured that Attain Technology and Attain Technology customers are safe. So, but it's a really significant happening. So Bob, why don't you tell us what's going on?
So yes, we got a notice on Friday evening, basically that there was a breach. And one of the things that we got notified by is one of our greatest vendors, Huntress, and we'll talk about them a little bit later. But so basically what had happened is Kaseya, a tool that managed service providers like ourselves use, had a 0-day flaw. And in that 0-day flaw was a way for the hackers to inject some code, right? So to take and send something through the Kaseya platform to the MSPs, which ended up getting sent to their customers. And basically what this did is this encrypted about 1,500 endpoint customers and compromised about 50 MSPs. And out of the thousands of MSPs that Kaseya works with, you gotta think about it. It's pretty amazing that they only got 50 partners, right? And we are told, so we use a platform called Huntress, and Huntress was the first company. Huntress is a security platform that we use that looks for footholds on networks. Huntress was the first ones to notice this infection happening somewhere around 2 to 4 o'clock on Friday afternoon. And why that's important is because the attack happened midday Friday, and Huntress was already on it. And we're so happy to have Huntress as a partner, because Huntress is the one that notified Kaseya, and Huntress is the one that notified some other vendors that could possibly be compromised. And Huntress has also made an offer to all MSPs that even if you're not a partner, that they'll help you do whatever they can to help you remediate and figure out what you need to do. So anyways, get back to the breach. So the customers were breached. And one of my goals as an MSP is knowing what to do to make sure that none of my customers ever have to pay the ransomware, right? Make sure that none of my customers ever have to pay to get their data back. So we do that in a lot of different ways, right? So this Kaseya breach circumvented all the security that those MSPs put in place, and they were encrypted. But even if you get encrypted, there's ways to make sure that we can recover that data. And that's probably the most critical point. Security is layers, right? So how do we protect the defense? How do we protect each endpoint? And that gets a little bit more difficult as we go, we have a laptop, now it connects to 50 different wireless networks. So you're not protecting all of those networks, but you need to still protect that endpoint. And there's utilities that we use. We use products like Cisco Umbrella, which help us protect you. We use products like Huntress and Cylance antivirus. Cylance, talking about Cylance antivirus, it's next gen antivirus. It's state-of-the-art artificial intelligence antivirus, and they work hand in hand with Kaseya to help prevent these attacks, right? To help limit the spread of those attacks. And they did a pretty good job, because if you really think about it, only 50 MSPs attacked is a tremendous feat. However, if you're one of the 50 MSPs, or if you're one of the 1,500 clients that got ransomware, it's not fun, right? And one of the things we did notice through this attack is that the MSP community came together, right? I belong to something called CompTIA's ISAO. It's a information security sharing organization. And we have now put together a permanent code red team, and I am now on that team to assist any other MSPs that might have a security issue like this. And why does that benefit me and my customers? Well, that benefits me, my customers, and you guys is because I learn of all of these different attacks. And then the first thing we do is we come back to Attain, okay, what do we need? What lessons learned can we take from this? So as we do these different type of events, we learn different things. Like in this attack, we learned that we have encryption keys for our clients, right? We know that we need to sort of make a safe backup of those encryption keys, right? So one of the MSPs that it got encrypted, those encryption keys were on their servers, which got encrypted. So if the encryption keys are encrypted, you can't decrypt the data, right? So even if you recover from backup, you're unable to decrypt the data. So the first thing we did is we made sure that we had an offline backup of all encryption keys. And we've come up with a process to make sure that happens. So we're learning just by other people's misfortune, unfortunately, but we're learning it as we help them. And I think that that's important. I think it's, it's all about people. It's about helping people. If I was in that situation, I would want people to help me. And I want to make sure that I would like to do for other people what I would like done for me. I think that that's important. I think we need to be a very responsive community. And, throughout time, community is so important. And as we get more digital and digital and digital, we lose that sense of community. And it's up to people like me and up to thought leaders like me and my counterparts is to build that community, to help my competitors' customers. You would never see HP or IBM help another customer, but I think that's wrong. I think like when companies are in dire need, right? Even my competitor I will help, because you know what? In the end, they are people. These people I meet with at industry events all the time, and even if I don't know you, right? I put myself in your shoes, but for the grace of God, there go I. Sorry to bring in that word, but I think that that's poignant here. And so, I am, through these people, I am also gaining something. But, it's called the giver's gain, right? If you give something, you will get something. And so I am gaining knowledge. I am gaining friends. I am getting people to help us in a different situation or other situations. I'm making contacts all over the world by doing this. The other thing I want to talk about is that the breach itself. So those customers were ransomware, and some of those MSPs were able to recover their customers pretty quickly, right? So they had to rebuild all new workstations because all the workstations weren't backed up, but they were able to recover the servers, go in, make sure the servers weren't infected, the backed up servers. So there's a whole remediation process that goes on when we do this. And the first thing we do is verify that we can bring the servers up virtually. And we bring them up virtually without any connections at all. And then we have to go through those servers to make sure there's no footholds left in those servers, because it won't do you any good to bring those servers back up if there's still a foothold, because then they'll just ransomware you in a day or two, right? And then you'll go through the whole exercise again, and you don't want to be doing that twice. So we remediate that. We report to the FBI, report to the CISA, which is the Cyber Intelligence Security Organization for the US government. Mostly in this event, the FBI, CIA, Department of Homeland Security, National Security Agency are all involved. And there's some elements of the attack that they can't talk about yet. So there's some things that we haven't learned yet because it's still considered classified. This is definitely a classified event. This is the biggest attack on an MSP or on the IT community thus far. And,
Wow.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Mike.
No, I was just saying, wow, it's a significant event because they attacked the people who are protecting other businesses. And I know that they have, like Kaseya has an on-premises tool and a software as a service cloud tool, and it was the on-premise tool that they attacked. But does that mean that over the last, because, and I know that they haven't rolled out an update yet, but does that mean that the customers on the SaaS tool are still protected, or they're not being monitored right now, even though they're up?
So the SaaS tool, the Kaseya SaaS tool, was compromised, but nothing was breached. There was
Okay.
more security in place, and
Okay.
Kaseya has taken some of that security and pushed that down to the on-premise. So good question, because what happened with Kaseya is they have a SaaS platform, security as a service platform that they host in their data centers, and then they had Kaseya on-premise. The people that were compromised, that their customers were encrypted, were only the on-premise people. The attack failed on the SaaS platform. If this attack had succeeded on the SaaS platform, we'd be talking a totally different story, right? But sorry, could you just repeat that question again, Mike?
Well, basically, because they attacked them and Kaseya hasn't rolled out an update yet that fixes everything, are they able to monitor it all? I mean, I believe that most of their clients are still, at least 80% are able to work and do business. But are they able to be monitored and protected?
So yes, so as soon as this attack happened, that was a great question. As soon as this attack happened, Huntress started developing some tools, Cylance developed some tools, and both of those companies assisted Kaseya in some research, R&D, and lent them their resources. So Kaseya has developed a tool, a monitoring and detection tool, and they've built in some protections, and they've also patched the code in their on-premise system. And I believe that they've patched the, they've patched the SaaS system, and I believe they've patched the on-premise system by now.
Okay.
And so you are protected, and that code vulnerability has been patched. But if you guys know anything about zero-day exploits, you don't know them until they're known. So that's the difficulty, right? And this wasn't like someone getting onto your computer. This was, there's a database engine called SQL, and there's information passed. It's like every time you go to your bank, all of that information that you see on your bank account, right, is held in a database. Well, to search that database, you issue a command to that database, and it gives you back the information you want. What they did is they injected some code, some commands to the SQL database, and there was a flaw there that allowed them to execute a command they shouldn't have been able to execute. That's probably oversimplifying it, but that's probably the best explanation I can get without getting really technical.
Okay.
So what the industry is doing is we're really coming together. We're looking at all of our tools. Our vendors have all looked at their tools. They've all decided that there's some extra protections we need to put in place, like us backing up our encryption keys. There's some other protections that we can't speak to yet. And then there's some protections that we're going to talk about and implement here at Attain, like adding some additional layers of security, just to help us prevent an attack like this. Our tools were not compromised, and tell you the truth, I am so happy that we have the partners that we have. Huntress was the first one to find the defense, and if we were infected, they'd be right there to help us. They were the first ones to notify Kaseya. They were the first ones to put a block in place to prevent more of their customers from being blocked. So, they were already proactively working on our behalf. Cylance was the same way, and Dado has spun up their Code Red team. So Dado, if you don't know what it is, it's a state-of-the-art premium provider of backup and disaster recovery. And we choose Dado because before Dado, we would have some type of emergency. Let's say we'd have a hardware failure, possible server down emergency. The first thing I would do is start losing sleep. I'd be like, check the backups, make sure they're good, spin them up, and we'd go through this 3-hour exercise and the server would be back up in 20 minutes and I'd be panicking and I'd have a heart attack. And post data, I know the data is secure. We look at it every day. Data spins it up into an image. So it spins it up and takes a screenshot of the server booted on its appliance. It replicates the data off to a data center every evening. And then it replicates that off to a second data center. And it's all encrypted. Hence those encryption keys I needed to make sure we had backed up. But as well, what they do is they put a 30-day lock on the second data center. And then they make the first data center 30-day recoverable. So even if the on-site appliance was wiped out, the hacker found a 0-day exploit on the local appliance, we can still spin them up on the cloud, right? So we still have those abilities. So it's really about, and that's why I say that my goal is for you never to pay the ransom, right? A really good, robust backup. Yeah, it's not cheap. I'm telling you, it's not cheap and it's expensive, and I pay it myself, right? Datto charges me full rate for the service. I pay what you would pay, but I'll tell you what, it's second to none. And a good disaster recovery and backup and disaster recovery plan is probably the most critical piece that you could ever do, right? If you did nothing, you have no antivirus, nothing, you have no passwords, nothing, not that I recommend any of this, but if you just had a backup and disaster recovery appliance with a backup and disaster recovery plan, that's better than anything else you could do. Now, all the other protections will help you prevent from being encrypted in the first place, but the data will make you recoverable. And that's the key, because if you do just some type of online backup, there's a good chance that that data gets encrypted and you can't recover it. So, and then we're talking downtime, right? So let's talk about downtime. Downtime's critical for business. 60% of businesses don't come back from a ransomware attack not due to the ransomware, or not due to the encryption, not even including to the lost data. It's due to the downtime, inability to service their customer base, or inability to service their financial income stream, right? And if you're unable to service that, then what good are you, right? Because
like for instance, there's a Swedish grocery store chain, Coop supermarket, has 800 stores, and they've been down for 6 days because they can't access their cash registers. So how much did that cost them?
Yeah, I just read an article about that. So what they are doing is they are replacing all of their cash registers in all 600 stores. So not only do they have that loss of time, and this is a good disaster recovery plan. Let's talk about that. If you have that type of downtime, how do you continue to create revenue, right? Yeah. I think it's kind of insane for supermarkets. You know what? Give the cashiers calculator and let them sell. Like, continue to bring in that income, because that's the lifeblood, right? Yeah, you might have a lot of computer work to do later to refigure out inventory, retake inventory, and all of that. But let's keep that income talking, or at least talk about it. Let's come up with that plan. I think that the Coop supermarket's total downtime till they're 100% restored is probably going to be like 30 days. Right? Can your business stand 30 days with no income? They'll start to generate income store by store, but you're talking 600 stores, so it's going to take a while, especially in COVID times now, because you think about the supply chain. So now they're looking at taking registers out of one store, retrofitting them, and put them into another store, because they probably can't bring in all the hardware they need all at the same time too. So, but a good disaster recovery plan, knowing what your downtime might be, deciding what's an acceptable level of downtime, right? And then we can gauge your recovery plan for that downtime. Do we have a whole set? Let's say 0 downtimes in your ballpark. Do we have a whole separate set of hardware ready to go that's offline, right? That we spin up the data appliance and vet the data on it, and then start spinning those up on the spare hardware. I mean,
So
I think.
I'm sorry. So does a business continuity and disaster recovery plan include, options for different scenarios like that?
It does. So really, it's when I sit down with somebody and I say, okay, what is your tolerance for downtime? Let's talk about disaster recovery and continuity. And I can give them very rough ballpark numbers of what those scenarios would cost to implement, and they can make a decision for their organization. I can say, well, to do the spare hardware, that's going to be $70,000 sitting on the shelf, right? Is that something you want to do, right? That's not a very common option. I pulled that out, but to have a data appliance, and then even all the way down to who's responsible. Let's forget about ransomware for a second, but let's talk about a fire, right? Let's say you had a fire at your facility. Who's responsible for getting a temporary facility, right? Who's responsible for notifying Attain to start the recovery process with data, to get an appliance shipped up with all the data on it so we can start getting back live, so we can get the data, we can spin that data up in the cloud at data, so we can get you access to the data. So you're limited, but you're not down, right? You can still access your customer data. You can still service your customers. It's all about that. What level do we back up? Do we back up every workstation in your organization so we can spin those up, check those for remediation and bring them up quicker? Or is the time to rebuild all those workstations in your cards? Does that answer your question, Mike?
Yes, it does. So I wanted to ask you, so they said that Revel or R-Evil, I'm not sure how you say it, was the hacker or hacker group responsible for this. So what are we talking about? Is this like a kid in Russia who learned some code from a book, or who are these people?
So ReEvil is a organization that sells their services. They're a ransomware service provider. So they're the MSPs of ransomware. Think about that, right? So they sell all of their tools and stuff to hacker groups, small and large, right? So from one person to 100 people. And then these people get people encrypted, and then ReEvil handles the transaction. And then the people that got the customer infected makes their percentage. It's usually like a 40-60% split, right?
Okay.
So and then also ReEvil is we know that they're in Russia, right? We believe that they might be part of a Russia state organized effort to destabilize the United States. So we know this, and we know this from some of the NSA and the FBI leaks on the petroleum pipeline attack and the meatpacking attack, right? It's very close to the vest. The United States security agencies aren't saying what they know because they don't want the hackers to know what they know yet, because there is going to be a counterattack unless Russia steps in. I was reading an article today where the president of the United States put President Putin on notice, basically, either you handle it or we'll handle it. And so that's where we're going.
Okay.
And we might never hear about what they did to handle it, because they might just dismantle the organization, right?
Okay.
They might just make it so that they can't do business anymore. I'm pretty sure that the U.S. government knows who's perpetrating the attacks.
Okay.
However, I'm sure Russian sovereignty is coming into why they're not just jumping in and doing something.
Okay. So when you say organization, you're not talking about a guy or 5 guys who got together. You're talking about hundreds of people who are actively a criminal organization.
Yeah, they're like the new mob, right? So
Okay.
And we're probably talking thousands. ReEvil is probably thousands. It's not
Wow.
hundreds, right?
Is ReEvil the only one in the world?
No, I personally know of like 10 names, but I don't know them all. There's a lot.
Okay.
And then it's dynamic because I could start my own organization tomorrow. I could move to India or Russia and start my own organization tomorrow. And
Yeah.
by doing it across international borders, makes it a lot more difficult.
Okay. Okay. So with all these criminal organizations trying to basically attack businesses so that they can hold their data ransom, so that because I heard Evil wanted $70 million to give a decryption key to decrypt this problem that they cause with Kaseya. So, how prevalent is this, and should businesses be worried?
I think worried is the wrong answer, right? I think plan and protect, right? So let's come up with a good disaster recovery plan, as well as put the tools in place so you're not the low-hanging fruit. One of the things, besides this attack, right? Because ransomware, let's face it, ransomware attacks happen every day around us that you're not hearing about, right? You hear about the Kaseyas, you hear about the pipeline, you hear about the Steamship Authority in Massachusetts being attacked. You hear about all of those because those are big news, right? National news organizations pick them up. And all of those organizations somehow, some way have some government accountability. They have to report for financial reasons, for FCC reasons, or for they have government contract reasons. So they have to make it public. And in a large organization, if you see that meat just stops flowing or oil just stops flowing out of a pipeline, it's noticeable. The public knows, and if you don't say something, it just becomes a bigger story and a bigger problem, right? But with all of the companies around you, I guarantee you, right in Massachusetts around me right now, there's probably 100 companies being ransomware, right?
Wow.
Maybe more, maybe less, but I would guess about 100. For every one you hear about, there's hundreds that you don't hear about. And so it's really about planning. It's about making sure that you're not the low-hanging fruit and that you have the tools in place, like Huntress and Cylance, that are proactive, always learning. So if you look at Huntress, right, why do they help out MSPs, Kaseya, and all of these other companies when they see this? Well, they do it for the same reason I do, right? They do it because they have a sense of community, right? They give back, but also look what they gain out of it. They gain knowledge, right? They understand, they get to see not only what they've detected, but then Kaseya shares all the backend code with them as well. So they can figure out, okay, how do we really prevent this attack, right? So they're proactive from that standpoint. So my goal is for you never to pay ransomware by an outstanding disaster recovery plan and disaster recovery service, but also not making you the low-hanging fruit, because we can take the apples off the bottom of the tree. Those are all the people that get ransomware on a regular basis, that not through a utility, right? But if you're hard to pick, if you're at the top of the tree, you'll probably last a lot longer. Eventually our US government's going to step in and help us with these attacks. But until then, we're on our own, right? We're really defending on our own. We're in a day of cyber war, and it's our own jobs to create our fortifications to make sure we're protected. And that way is to make sure you're not the low-hanging fruit. Have tools like Cylance, which is artificial intelligence, next-gen antivirus. It's not depending upon checking a definition to see if this file is bad, because by that time it's too late, right? These are zero-day exploits. It's looking at the behavior of what's going on the computer and saying, that doesn't look right. It flags it. And then somebody back at a knock says, hey, I just got a notice. Let me look at that flag. That's not good. Let's block that attack, right? And that's what they're doing. That's what, Huntress does that for us. Cylance does that for us. Dato gives us the next-gen, Dato gives us the massive backup and disaster recovery plan, but also we have one more tool in our belt. We use Cisco Umbrella with the Cisco Threat Network Intelligence platform. So we have all of these tools, we put them all together, and that what's puts you at the top of the tree. Because when you make it too difficult for a ransomware attack, they'll just move on to somebody that makes it easy. There's 40,000 people that are easy. There's
Yes.
20 people that is difficult. And it's our job to make it as difficult as possible. I'll tell you, there's nobody, if a hacker wants into your system, there's nobody that's going to stop them if they're good, right? I mean, if you think about it, most of the tools hackers have today came from the NSA and CIA. They were leaked tools from the US government, right? Those were tools the governments were using before the hackers were using them. Right?
Oh, wow.
Right? So 3/4 of the tools that they use today came from those sources.
Okay. So it sounds like you're saying that it's not a matter of if you're hacked, it's when.
Well, if you do nothing and you don't protect yourself, it could be when. But
Okay.
further you move yourself up that chain, the less the likelihood.
Okay.
I'm not saying that it's imminent that you'd be ransomware, but what I am saying is unless you put yourself on the top of the tree, it's likely.
Okay. 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 Wow. Well, this has been a really interesting conversation. I've learned a lot about cybersecurity and what you need to do to protect yourself. Is there anything else that you'd like to add to this discussion?
The only thing I'd like to add is that the number one thing you can do for protection is get your end users trained, right? Train your end users on how to not fall for the phishing attempts and all of that. And if you want to engage in training your company in cybersecurity, please contact me. I have a number of free accounts that I can give out to get your employees trained. They are very limited, so act pretty quickly if you're interested. So all of my customers, all my managed services customers already get that included into their service, and it's something that I can extend to you guys as well. My goal here, and if you want to schedule an appointment so I can ask you some questions and give you some advice, I'll give you some free advice on how to protect your company. My goal is, even if you're not an Attain customer, how can I help you never pay the ransomware? That's my goal, is help hopefully get you so you never have to pay ransomware. But more importantly, don't have to go through the turmoil of being ransomware and having your business crippled. We work so hard for our businesses and we put so much into them, so much blood, sweat, and tears. And it is soul crushing when something like this happens to you. So,
yeah, I can't imagine. The pain of knowing that everything you've worked so hard for is in someone else's hands and they're blackmailing you and ransoming it back to you. That's horrible.
Yeah, I agree.
So, but yeah, definitely reach out to us at attaintechnology.com and speak directly with Bob, and he'll help you with all of your questions and cybersecurity needs. Bob, I really appreciate this, and thanks for doing this last minute. I know that you're busy, but this is, I think, really helpful for everyone.
Excellent. Everybody, go home, have a great day. Make sure you don't pay the ransom, right? So whatever you do, whether you engage my services or engage somebody else's services, make sure you're protected, right? That's the whole goal. Let's kick these guys' ass. Excuse my French.
Exactly. Don't pay the ransom.
Don't pay the ransom. Yep.
Love it.
All right.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, guys. Have a great one.